We're on the record in cause number 328396 and cause number 328398. Both cases are style of State of Texas versus Dean Autry. Excuse me, Mr. Dean Daughtery. Mr. Daughtery, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Daughtery, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how you doing, Mr. Daughtery?
Fine.
Okay, that's good. Mr. Daughtery, I have before me an information that alleges that on or about October 7th of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, you were charged with that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of resisting arrest, search, transportation. Mr. Daughtery, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, Your Honor.
And to this charge, Mr. Daughtery, how do you plead guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
Now, you're pleading guilty freely and voluntarily,
Yes, sir.
and are you pleading guilty because you're actually guilty?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Daughtery, I have before me the misdemeanor plea admonishment, which is also marked as State's Exhibit Number 1. On page 1 of State's Exhibit Number 1, there's one box checked that states that this is a Class A misdemeanor, and it states that the range of punishment is confinement in jail for a term not to exceed 1 year, a fine not to exceed $4,000, or both such fine and confinement. Do you understand the range of punishment for this offense?
Yes, Your Honor.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Daughtery, there are two sets of initials. One set is on the line that says guilty, and the other set is on a line that says that I do not request discovery of the evidence, and I waive my right to request discovery in the case. Mr. Daughtery, are these your initials?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, Mr. Daughtery, also, the next document, well, on the same document, on the next page, there's a signature at the top of this document above the line that says defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, which is the trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal, there is a signature above the line that says defendant at the bottom of this document. Is that your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
There are two boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box says that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
I do, Your Honor.
The second box states that you are waiving, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Now, prior to signing and initialing these documents, or prior to talking to the prosecutor on this document, Mr. Daughtery, first of all, you were informed by the court that you had a right to hire an attorney. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Or if you did not have enough money to hire an attorney, you may request an attorney to be appointed to represent you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you also were informed that you may represent yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you chose to represent yourself by waiving your right to an attorney. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Also, in the misdemeanor plea admonishment, which is State's Exhibit Number 1, you were read the waiver of counsel for purposes of entering your plea. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, prior to signing and initialing these documents, did you have an opportunity to read the documents?
I did.
And did you read the documents?
Yes, sir.
And did you understand what you read?
Fully.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1. State, you like to offer State's Exhibit Number 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Daughtery, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1. State's Exhibit Number 1 is a document that have your initials on page 2 and your signature on page 3. The state would like to use this document as evidence against you in your case. Is it all right for the state to use this document as evidence in your case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, state exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Mr. Daughtery, is there any evidence that you are currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Daughtery, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea of guilty and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor. It's for 60 days, credit for time served, tax and retire of the court cost.
Okay. And Mr. Daughtery, the state is offering that you serve 60 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any time in jail on this case because you've already spent 60 days in jail. Therefore, you will be given credit for time served. If you owe any court costs, you will not have to pay the court costs either because the time that you spent in jail has already paid the court costs. Therefore, the court costs will be taxed and retired. Mr. Daughtery, do you understand that?
I do, Your Honor.
And Mr. Daughtery, do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Daughtery, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you've entered into with the state in this case. Now, Mr. Daughtery, I have before me another case. This case is numbered clause number 328398 and is styled the state of Texas versus Dean Daughtery. Mr. Daughtery, the information in this case states that on or about October 7 of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of failure to identify fugitive from justice. Mr. Daughtery, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, Your Honor.
And to this charge, Mr. Daughtery, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty as well.
And are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Daughtery, I have before me what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 1. It's titled the Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment. At the top of this document, there's one box that's checked to say this is a Class A misdemeanor, and the range of punishment is confinement in jail for a term not to exceed 1 year and a fine not to exceed $4,000 or both such confinement and fine. Mr. Daughtery, do you understand the range of punishment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, Mr. Daughtery, on page 2 of this document, there are 2 sets of initials. One on the line that says guilty, and the other set is on the line that says, I do not request discovery of the evidence, and I waive my right to request discovery in the case. Are these your initials on these 2 lines?
Yes, Your Honor.
On page 3 of this document, there's a signature above the line that says defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, which is the trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal, there's a signature on the line that says defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And at the top of this document, there are 2 boxes that's checked. The first box states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
I do, Your Honor.
And the second box states that you're waiving, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Daughtery, prior to signing these documents, you were informed that you had a right to either hire your own attorney, or if you did not have enough money to hire your own attorney, you can request that an attorney be appointed to represent you, or you had a right to represent yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you chose, you stated to the court that you wanted to waive your right to an attorney and to represent yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And prior to you talking to the prosecutor, you read the waiver of counsel for purposes of entering a guilty plea that is located in State's Exhibit number 1 under waivers. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, prior to signing and initiating these documents, did you have an opportunity to read the documents?
Yes, sir.
And did you read the documents?
I did.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
They are, Your Honor.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. State, you like to offer State's 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Daugherty, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. State's Exhibit number 1 is a document that have your initials on page 2 and your signature on page 3. And it also contains your waivers as well. But Mr. Daugherty, the state would like to use this document as evidence against you in this case. Is it all right for the state to use this document as evidence in your case?
Yes, Your Honor.
No objection. State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Now, Mr. Daugherty, is there any evidence that you're currently mentally incompetent to stand trial in this case?
No, sir.
Mr. Daugherty, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I also find that your pleas and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor. It's for 60 days, credit for time served, tax and retire the court costs.
Okay. And is this case running concurrent with the previous case?
I didn't put that on the plea paperwork, but yes, Your Honor.
Okay, if it's silent, it'll run concurrent anyway. So, Mr. Daugherty, the state in this case is offering that you serve 60 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you've already served 60 days in Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, you will not have to serve any more time in jail in this case because you'll be given credit for time served. If you owe any court costs, you will not have to pay that court cost either because the time that you spent in jail has already paid the court costs off. Therefore, the court costs will be taxed and retired. Now, both of these cases will be running concurrent with each other. Mr. Daugherty, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
I do.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Daugherty, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you've entered into with the state. Mr. Daugherty, please have a good day and follow the bailiff.